y'all doing?
Welcome to Hump Day Wednesday. We're so excited to have you guys here and really excited to talk about today's topic. So today's topic is going to be hope and things can change. So we are very happy to see you here and can't wait to get started with the show.
Yes.
So one of the things we like to do is call out chat members. So I know Destroyer's in the building. He's still recovering, but we are hopeful to get back on his live with him soon. So that should be fun. That should be coming up soon, hopefully.
Yes.
So, and
he's doing better. He's still bruised bad, but that's to be expected. So
yeah,
he's getting there.
And my lovely assistant, Mr. Dan IT guy.
That's me.
So if you like our channel, if you want to subscribe to us and come on live with us and make comments, we would love to have you. So feel free to come on with us live and make comments with us. That would be awesome. So, well, we're going to jump right in and recap from last week. Does everybody remember what last week's topic was? It was the big SEX topic, big sex talk. And I know a lot of people think that sex is kind of a taboo subject to talk about. Why can't we talk about it? Why do people feel so uncomfortable talking about it?
I don't know.
Especially with their spouse. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You know, I know like a lot of people are kind of old fashioned. A lot of people are they have like different religious upbringings and things that kind of prevent them from talking about different topics. And I just think, why not be open and talk about it? And you know, if you're struggling with something that's going on, then you should be able to share that with people, you know, especially friends, especially your spouse.
Yes.
And just be able to talk about all those intimate details with your spouse. So last week we talked about some tips, just the tip, for increasing sex in your marriage. And one of the things that we talked about was communication. If you have a good communication, with your partner, then you're going to have a good sex life because you're able to talk about all those parts of sex that really matter, you know, like frequency and what you like and what you don't like and
foreplay,
all that. Yeah. You're going to be able to talk about those things honestly with your spouse and, you know, make it better.
Yes.
Why be in a rut? That's no fun. Make it the best life, the best marriage that you can possibly have. So another tip for increasing sex in your marriage is make time for one another. Help each other out throughout the day. Talk to each other throughout the day, you know, texting or calling one another, and chase each other a little bit. Make it fun.
Yes.
You know, grab his ass. Give hugs to each other throughout the day. That's always a fun thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, try and warm up the oven a little bit to get things going. So we also talked about intimacy, where your soul is connecting with another soul. And that's so important to remember. You know, you can still be intimate with one another without having sex with each other. And that's such an important thing to remember.
Yeah.
That intimacy is really, it leads to sex, but it's not the same thing.
Right.
It's quite different, you know.
It can lead to sex, or it can just be two people being close.
Yeah.
You know,
feeling what the other person is feeling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know. Did we share that story about that shooting in Phoenix that you experienced?
Yeah.
Did we share that last time?
Yes.
I don't remember if we did or not.
Yeah.
But you know, being able to feel what the other person is feeling, that's something that comes, you know, as you're going through your marriage, you know, that's something that you
loving, touching, squeezing each other.
That was beautiful, honey. That was beautiful. But yeah, being able to feel what the other person is feeling, that's something that kind of comes along with the longer that you're married, the longer that you're with one another. the more that you talk to one another, the more intimate your relationship is going to be.
Yeah.
So that's something to kind of keep in mind. And I know homework for last week, we were talking about, the first part was talk about your sex life with your spouse, and talk about things, maybe some changes that you would like to make, or, your preferences with different things, the frequency that you're having sex in your marriage. Talk about those things with each other. And another part of the homework was take a little field trip if you wanted to. Another part was think about your early days together and what really created that spark between the two of you. What was it about your husband that made you just want to hug him and, want to be with him all the time? What was it about your wife that drew you to her? So that was part of your homework too. And the last part of the homework was make love. So I'm hoping that everyone did their homework. I'm not going to say whether we did or not, but we always do the homework with you. So we always do anything that we're asking you to do, we are also doing. So if we ask you to talk to one another about a certain issue or a certain topic, we are also talking about it. And, if we say about, doing
if we haven't already talked about
it. Right. Or if we ask you to do a particular activity with one another, we're also doing that, because we're going through this with you. This isn't something that, by no means do me and Dan think that we're experts in this field at all.
No.
We're still growing with our marriage as all of you are. And so that's something that we're all in this together, and we want you all to feel that, yes, we're all in this together. And Mama San's here. I'm so excited that you're here.
Mama San.
Yay. There's Nitro. We had to have a rain check. Oh, yes. Well, we talked about that too, that sometimes medical issues or certain things come up in your marriage that, just take precedence.
Yeah. I mean, if you're having issues, that's
right.
Completely understandable.
Right now Dan's
understand.
Experiencing sciatic problems. So,
yeah.
Sometimes you just have to put that on hold and think, all right, well, when you're better, things will happen.
Thankfully, the last time was pretty darn good.
I'm not going to get into
it. Did I say that out loud?
Too much information, Dan. Come on.
Sorry,
Stop it. Anyways, tonight's topic is all about hope, and things can change. And the last couple of weeks we've been, I think we've been pretty positive, just put some butter on it. That's what Eric says.
Hey, butter fixes everything.
Go get the butter, honey. Yes. So keeping with that theme of positivity, we're going to talk about hope tonight. And, with us being positive thinkers, this topic is really important to us. Hope really goes hand in hand with positivity and looking for the silver lining in things and continuing to look for the good in one another, continuing to look for the good in your marriage. In order to, there's times where you're going to be going through your marriage and you're going to have those down times where maybe you just don't like each other all that much, or you're arguing, and you've had a big argument about something, and you have to keep that thought in your mind. There's hope. There's still a reason to keep going in this marriage. So, I wanted to do something a little bit special tonight. Since my book is coming out soon, the book is Making Marriage Last. It's coming out very soon. We're in the final editing stages of the book, and it's just formatting and then publishing.
Mm-hmm.
So it should be out really, really soon. And because of that, I wanted to do something a little bit different tonight and read an excerpt from the book. The chapter that this section is from is positivity. And it's my favorite chapter out of the whole book. And this section on hope, it's probably my favorite section. So I really hope that you like it. So here we go. So faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. But having hope in your marriage, in your spouse, in your vows, and in your future keeps the marriage strong. Many people say they will believe it when they see it. Hope tells us to believe without seeing. Hope tells us to look for the future and see the best outcome. Hope requires positive thinking. How can you have hope in your future together as husband and wife when you're thinking negatively? At various times in a marriage, one spouse might not have hope. It's during these times that the other spouse needs to have enough hope for the couple. Once you are committed to performing acts of love despite not feeling in love or feeling hope for your relationship, you can say you truly love the other person. When my mom was sick, our whole family held out hope that she would be able to fight, win, and survive. It was her 4th cancer diagnosis. The doctors told her that she had a 75% chance of survival. However, they also told her that because of her previous 3 cancer diagnoses, her immune system was very weak. She endured surgery to remove the cancer, followed by rigorous chemotherapy sessions, which tested her strength and made her sick. I drove her to chemotherapy every 2 weeks for 2 months. We talked during the treatments about our kids, the future, funny stories from our past, and what may happen if she did not make it through. I told her I did not want to talk about death, but she wanted to be realistic. She often told me that it's okay to be realistic and remain hopeful at the same time. One needs to realistically plan for the future. She told me how she wanted her adopted children raised, what kind of education she wished for them, and dreams for their future. She told me she wanted me and Dan to raise her children if something happened to her. When my mom passed away, I felt like I had lost all hope. My mom was gone, even though I had prayed so hard. How could I follow through with raising her wishes and raise her children when I was hurting so badly? How could I teach them about hope when I no longer had hope? I remember a talk my mom and I had during one of her treatments. She had taken hold of my hand and said, "I want you to remember to keep walking. When life is hard, it is okay to fall down, but get right back up and keep walking. Start out walking slowly, but keep walking. Walk through those hard times. Eventually, you will make it to the other side. Keep hope alive by taking one step at a time." I have taught her children this mindset. When my dad had a heart attack and passed away 3 years after Mom, I reminded the kids, keep walking. This is a hard time, but we need to keep walking. Take my hand, and we'll walk through it together. Our family has fallen at times, but we get back up and we keep walking. Hope tells us to keep walking, keep looking for the good, keep being positive. Keep hope alive in your marriage and in your spouse. So that is the hope section. So I hope you liked it. One thing that during that time that we were going through all of that with my mom, one thing that I look back on now is how strong Dan was and how he continued providing that hope for our future, providing hope for our marriage, because I couldn't give anything at that time. I really couldn't. And to look back on that and realize that he was the one holding me up and helping me to be strong means a lot. You know, I had a lot of people telling me back then that I was really strong, and they thought that I was the strong woman and everything, and I didn't feel it. I look back and I realized it was Dan. It was Dan telling me how strong I was. It was Dan holding me up. It was Dan providing that strength for me to keep walking through it. He was the one holding my hand at that time and walking me through it. And sometimes you need to do that for your spouse. You know, there's times where one of you might be sick or one of you might be dealing with something that, you know, maybe problems at work or a lot of issues with the kids. And sometimes you just need to grab each other's hands and help each other to keep walking through it. So,
We've certainly had our fair share of that.
yes.
And, I remember I was working at Verizon, and I just had left AT&T to go to Verizon. I was at Verizon for probably about 2 months, and I was starting to really dig in and get into some of the projects, and was helping people, and I was doing whatever I could do to be a good employee. And my boss walked up to me and tapped me on the shoulder, and he said, I got to talk to you for a minute. And I said, okay. And I just could tell by the way he said it, it probably wasn't going to be good. But I was like, I was, sitting there just trying to figure out what did I do, And we go back into an office, and he tells me, I got to let you go today. He said, I'm not going to beat around the bush. That's what it is. He said, obviously, if you need a reference or anything, he's like, this is not anything to do with the way you performed. It's not anything to do with, any real reason other than they're downsizing and it's your numbers up. So I'm sitting there thinking, we just got caught up on our bills. We just paid off the car, and things were just starting to look up, and then
we were just starting to get ahead just a little bit.
And I felt bad for my boss because I freaking lost it. I lost it. I'm like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Pardon my language.
It's okay.
What the heck am I supposed to do? I have kids at home. I have a wife. What? I'm just like, I gotta go. And he's like, I understand. And he walked me back out to my desk. I grabbed my stuff and I left. And one of the guys that was there called me on the phone, and he's like, what's going on? And I said, I just got canned. And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I just got canned. He's like, well, let me see what I can do. I'm like, all right. So then I had to call Tracy and tell her what I go through the whole thing on the phone with her, because I'm at the point where I'm so I'm in a tailspin. I pull off into a gas station, and I'm just sitting there staring at myself in the mirror going, what the hell just happened? What am I going to do? So, I call her and I talk to her, and
I think I told you, just come home.
Yeah.
Just come home. We'll talk about it when you get here.
I just told her, I said, as soon as my head clears a little, I'll come home. But right now, I don't feel comfortable driving because there's too much going on upstairs, and I don't want to end up smashing into somebody or something because I'm not paying attention. So, because Arizona is not a good place to drive.
No, if you've ever driven in Arizona, I think a lot of people think that Arizona is like a big black hole, like it's all desert, and you're if you drive 5 feet, you're going to hit a cactus or something, but it's not. It's Phoenix. The Phoenix area is really, really congested. There's a lot of people in Phoenix, and so being on the surface streets, being on the highways, it can get
pretty
it can get nutty,
sketchy.
Yeah, it can get scary a little bit. If you're not fully there in your head, you don't want to be out there driving around.
But I got home, and she gave me a big hug, and we held each other and cried for a while, and I had to pull my head out of my behind and figure out what to do. So I did, and she jumped in and she went out and got a job, and we both started our new jobs on the same day. And guess what? My new job was at Verizon. One of the guys that was there was like, I can't believe that happened. And or one of the higher ups. And he's like, he called me and he said, if I can find you a position, would you be willing to come back in? I said, yeah. And he said, I had no idea this was going on and, whatever. And he's like, it's already done. There's nothing to do about it now. But my microwave guy is looking for somebody right now. So I said, have him call me. Call me up. Boom. Got a job.
It was like 3 months of us getting up every day together.
It was a battle.
Every day. And the two of us saying to one another, it's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to keep walking. We're going to hold each other's hands. We're going to keep walking because you know what? We'll downsize whatever we don't need and we'll figure it out. And we're just going to hold on tight and keep walking through it. And, our families really helped us out a lot during that time. Not
our first rodeo.
No.
But
for good or bad, it's not the first time that this has happened. And so, it's one of those things where, we've kind of learned throughout the years that we're going to keep on holding on to each other and keep looking for the positive, keep looking for the silver lining, keep thinking, okay, today's the day that you're going to get another job and it's going to be a whole lot better than what you had before. And it's going to be amazing. And, just keep pumping each other up, I guess, and speaking those things into existence, manifesting that for your future. And that's something that we try to do all the time with each other is just kind of manifest things for each other.
I mean, and you could have been really negative when I got home, and not even like being mean to me or anything, just like negative, like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And freaking out. And, and you were not like that at all. You were calm. You were just like, everything's going to be all right. We're going to be fine.
Yeah. At that point, that's not what you needed at that point. And
100%. I appreciate.
As a spouse, you kind of have to figure out what is it that your spouse needs to hear right now and provide that. At that point, Dan needed that hopefulness.
Yeah.
He didn't need negativity. He needed hopefulness. He needed me to be there and hold on to him and dry his tears and go through it with him. And, that's something that we need to do for each other. And believe me, when we first got married, that's not what we didn't start out that way. We didn't start out that way. It was more of,
you started out with a bang.
Yeah, it was more thinking like, you're still thinking more like that single person, like, oh my God, what are we going to do?
And I'm still sitting there thinking, you know what? It's my way or the highway. And she's still sitting there thinking it's my way or the highway. And we just butted heads. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those, I've known her forever. So we got through that.
Well, we were such good friends before.
And that's what I'm saying is we actually had a relationship before, thankfully. Otherwise, I don't think we'd have made it.
Plus, he's a really good kisser. So, I had to take that into account. So.
I suppose.
Yes. Powerful section. Love hearing parts of your book. Thank you, Destroyer. Yeah, it's that's one of my favorite parts. That's that one. It doesn't matter how many times I read through that section, I cry every time. It gets me every single time. The whole book is not like super sentimental like that, but that's one of those sections that gets me every time. But so with things changing, hope tells us that things can change. There's this idea that marriage is 50-50. And I don't know who started that idea that marriage is 50-50, that you each put 50% in and then it'll be a whole marriage. Marriage is 100-100. Would you agree?
Yes.
It's 100-100. You each give 100% of yourself to the marriage. If you're only giving 50% of your marriage, 50% to your marriage,
you're going to get 50. You get into it, or you get out of it what you put into it.
Exactly.
So you're putting in 50%. You got to expect 50%. Would you rather have 50% or 100%?
Yeah.
It's not a tough equation.
You kind of have to look at it, you giving your whole self, all of your heart, all of your soul, all of your energy, all of your mind to this marriage. And, and understandably, this is not the only thing. Your marriage is not the only thing going on in your life. We understand that. You also have a job, you have kids, you have activities that you do outside of your marriage. You have things that you do. But when you're dealing with your spouse, when you're talking with your spouse, 100, 100. When you're talking about feelings, when you're, anything that has to do with your marriage, 100, 100. What does he say? Yes, that's exactly it. It's bull caca.
Horse caca.
Horse caca. Yes. So if you want your marriage to change, oh, here we go. Here's Pop. Hey, Pop, how are you doing? Life goes on. God will show us a way. We are so much stronger together. Love you. 55 years is still going.
There you go, Pop.
Yes. Well, it was funny when Dan and I got married. I told him we got married when we were 35, and I told him, I'm going to stay with you for 50 years. So we're going to be married for 50 years. And then at 50 years, then we're going to divorce. I'm going to marry some really young, hot guy. And you can still live with us, though, and fix stuff. But like we said, 50 years, that's it. Right?
Sounds fair to me.
We'll both be 85. So I'm going to marry some
By
young,
then, I
some
don't
young
care.
guy who's like 82.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some young guy who's 82.
Some young whippersnapper.
Yeah. Oh, you whippersnapper. You're 82. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. But anyways, if you want your marriage to change, the first thing that you need to do is take an inventory of yourself. This change always, any kind of change has to start with you first. Look at yourself first. What are some things that you can change? I know Dan and I have talked for a long time about different things that we could change to make our marriage better. And we've always looked inward first. Can I change my tone of voice? Could I change the way that I speak to Dan? Could I change the wording that I'm using? Could I change maybe stopping and thinking maybe, okay, let's take a little more time to think about this before I say something. You're thinking, you're asking yourself all these questions. What changes can I make to make this marriage better? And I know Dan and I both did that. There were changes we both wanted to make. Yeah. And, it wasn't something where Dan came to me and said, well, you need to change this. Or I went to him and said, well, you need to change this. It was always looking inward. When you want change in your marriage, you look inward first. Take an inventory of yourself and see what things you can do that can make the marriage better. Because it starts with you. It doesn't start by pointing fingers at your spouse. That's a good route to divorce right there, by pointing fingers all the time at your spouse. It's looking inward. A pear and a spare. Yes. So let's see, what else? Notice if your marriage is in a rut. We kind of talked about that last week a little bit, so I'm not going to get back into it too much this time. But notice if your marriage is in a rut and make some changes that way. See if there's different things that you can do to get that marriage out of a rut.
Yes.
One of the things that I remember, I went to Catholic school when I was in grade school and high school. And I remember a teacher saying to us that when you go to church, if you're bored at church, what are you doing to make Mass less boring? Is there something you can do to get involved or do something different? Because if you're bored, it's because you're not involved. You're making it boring for yourself because other people are there and they're not bored. So, she said, I remember her saying to us that Jesus doesn't need your butt in a seat. He doesn't need you sitting there just because it's an obligation for you to be there. What he wants is your heart. He wants your soul. He wants you to put your all into this and have a relationship with him. And it's the same with your spouse. You know, you don't want to just be the warm body in the bed, you know, and just be roommates with your spouse. Your husband or your wife, they don't need that.
Right.
If they wanted a roommate to share in the expenses of the household, they could have just gone and gotten a roommate. You know, this is somebody that you're giving your heart and your soul to. So, you know, this is, I don't know, you don't want to just be going through the motions and just be there to keep a seat warm. And we love Chris Stapleton, love him.
Yes.
And we were listening to his music one night. He has a song called Either Way. If you haven't heard that song, I really encourage you to listen to that song again, Either Way by Chris Stapleton. It's a brutal song. It really is, because he's talking.
The words are brutal.
Yes, he's talking about basically like outside, you know, to the people at church and, you know, the outside world, their marriage looks perfect, but they're barely talking to each other when they're in the house. They're basically passing by one another in the hallway. And the only time they talk is when there's bills to pay. I think that's one of the lines from the song. And it talks about whether you stay or whether you go, I'm not going to love you either way. And it's heartbreaking to hear that. It's heartbreaking to think about how many times you and I have come close to thinking that when we've gone through different issues in our marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people in their marriages kind of go through that thinking where I don't care either way, you know, whether you stay or whether you go, I could care less. I don't care, you know, and you kind of have to go past that thinking and get past that roommate thinking that this is somebody that holds your heart and you hold theirs. And I mean, God, listen to the song. Oh my gosh. It's
brutal.
It's brutal. Yeah. But that roommate versus spouse idea. Yeah. So lastly, try marriage counseling if you need it. And, you know, if you're going through your married life and there's times where you just can't seem to reconcile with one another, or you can't get past certain hurts, or
can't find common ground.
Yeah. Or maybe your communication style isn't meshing with the other person, or you're finding difficulty trying to communicate with one another. It might be time to talk to a marriage counselor. That's not a bad thing. And going to a marriage counselor is not a sign that your marriage is over. I want you to understand that. It's a sign that you're willing to fight for your marriage. Mm-hmm. So, you know, going and talking to a third party who's not entangled in your marriage, talking to somebody who doesn't know you, somebody that, you know, you can explain your thoughts, your side of the situation. They can listen to both sides without having any feelings for either one of you.
Yeah.
And give you practical advice, give you practical things that you can take home and practice with one another. It's saved a whole lot of marriages, just saying. So, and I know we're a little short tonight, but that's quite all right. Quite all right. I'm going to give you your homework for tonight, because I always have to give homework. So I want you to ask each other and ask yourselves and ask each other, what signs of hope do you see in your marriage? What do you see, those little flickers of hope in your marriage? For me, I see the fun that we have. I see the laughter that we share all the time. And I still have, I don't know if you know this or not, but I still get butterflies.
Oh yeah.
When you call me on the phone. Like I still do. It's crazy, but I mean, I've known you for 48 years.
When I get a text from you, I'm all excited.
Not 48. I've known you 44 years.
Yeah.
Yes. And when I see a text from you, or when I hear your phone call coming in, like just hearing your voice, it gives me butterflies, little heart giggles. So think about those signs of hope that you see in your marriage, and list the positives about your spouse and about your marriage, and then share them with each other. So that's part of your homework for this week. Another part is think about what changes you can make. Do that exercise of looking inward and asking yourself, what changes can I make in this marriage?
To improve our communication, to improve, our relationship, to show my love more, to, there's a million different things that you can do that are simple,
Yes.
that don't cost anything, that will make a big difference.
Even just looking at the person when they're speaking to you, that's a big change that you can make. Putting your phone down, or turning the TV off, or even just pausing your show for a few minutes while your spouse is talking to you. That's a huge, huge change you can make in your relationship.
Yep.
And next week we'll talk about communication. You think that's a good thing to talk about?
Sounds good to me.
And there's so many tips with communication. We'll talk about that next week, but that's part of it, getting rid of distractions. And so the last part, I really want you guys to sit down with one another and talk about the changes that each of you feel that you can make for the relationship, and talk from your own perspective. I want to change this about myself. Try not to point out each other's flaws. We don't want an argument starting. Try not to point out each other's flaws. Listen with your heart and be kind to one another.
Yes.
So that's your homework for this week. So we hope you guys have a really awesome week. And I hope that everybody who's praying for rain gets rain.
Yeah.
We had ours this past Monday, so we're good. Mother Nature, we're good. So, but y'all have a wonderful, wonderful week. And we can't wait to see you next time. So bye for now.
See you guys.